from Hollywood, I'm Martin Grove, welcoming you to our Screendollars podcast, Box Office Autopsy. Right now, we'll look at the movie marketplace and analyze how things are going and where they're going, sharing some opinions from my perspective after decades of talking about Hollywood on CNN Entertainment Tonight and as a Hollywood Reporter columnist. Dinos coexisted with moviegoers at theaters everywhere this weekend as Universal and Amblin Entertainment's Jurassic World Dominion chomped its way through the box office jungle, breathing new life into exhibition's Summer of Recovery. Unlike last weekend when exhibitors got twin horror thrillers from two indie distributors, this week brought no wide kickoffs other than the Dinos. Of course, multiplexes still had a heavyweight holdover hit in Paramount and Skydance Media's Tom Cruise blockbuster Top Gun Maverick, which played very well on screens the Dinos didn't invade. On today's Box Office Autopsy, we'll check out Dominion's debut worldwide, and we'll analyze Maverick's overperforming hold in Weekend 3. And then, in this week's Oscar Outlook Spotlight, we'll look at what the Academy's new CEO could do to boost the Oscar telecast's ratings. But first, let's get back to the Dinos, starting with this quick scene that shows why audiences ignored the critics and made Dominion a must-see movie.
We gotta go. Gonna have to break a window to get inside that thing. Hope nobody's afraid of heights.
Don't move.
Dominion kicked off to a muscular $143.4 million at 4,676 theaters. That was better than the 135 to 140 million that exhibitors were projecting, and way better than earlier estimates of 100 to 125 million from Hollywood handicappers who may have been cautious because they knew critics hated Dominion. It's got a really rotten 30% on Rotten Tomatoes, but that's not making any difference at the box office. Its 79% audience score says moviegoers like it well enough to keep the Dinos running. Dominion's launch is only about 3% less than the $148 million start for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, June 22, 2018, back in the pre-pandemic era. Kingdom wound up doing nearly $428 million domestic, plus nearly $893 million international, for a worldwide cum of $1.3 billion. Driven by Dominion, the overall marketplace expanded to $210 million per ComScore, up 71% from the prior weekend and up 217% versus 2021. It's only the third pandemic-era weekend to see ticket sales crack 200 million, according to ComScore. As for the year-to-date, ComScore's tally puts 2022 at $3.17 billion. That's up 292% from nearly $810 million last year. The Dinos are also off to a heavyweight start internationally, having already bitten off nearly $246 million in 72 territories After 2 weeks of overseas action per Comscore, their worldwide total of just over $389 million includes over $50 million from ticket sales in China, making Dominion Hollywood's top-grossing release in the Middle Kingdom this year. About 80% of China's cinemas are now open after major pandemic surges, although all Shanghai theaters are still shut, as are some in Beijing. Both Dominion and Top Gun Maverick are packing the kind of global punch we're used to seeing only from superhero movies. We'll get more of this worldwide super strength July 8th when Disney and Marvel's Thor, Love and Thunder opens, which we'll be talking about later in today's podcast. Last week, Marvel fans discovered an unexpected treat is coming their way from Sony and Marvel September 2nd for Labor Day weekend, with the release of a new cut of Spider-Man No Way Home, subtitled the More Fun Stuff version. It will feature additional and extended scenes that weren't in the original version that opened last December 17th and did $1.9 billion worldwide. Meanwhile, back at the box office, Top Gun Maverick continued to dazzle Hollywood handicappers by overperforming despite the dino's arrival in its third weekend. Tom Cruise's jet-powered mega hit dropped just 44% to $50 million at 4,262 theaters, a good indication it's still drawing older moviegoers who didn't get there immediately, and it's also a destination for younger moviegoers who've been hearing great word of mouth about it. Maverick's done just over $393 million domestic, and its worldwide cume is now $747 million. Here's a look at the kind of flight training that went into making Maverick such a high flyer.
Tom said to me specifically at the beginning is he wanted to make the greatest aviation film ever made. And you can't do that in a studio. You got to get in the air.
To be able to get into an F-18, they had to go through all the training. I hadn't done it since 1985. The actors also had to train, so I started them out in underwater training.
This water training we had to do, it was real. The purpose of the training is in the event that there were an over-the-water emergency.
I felt like I was drowning. It was tough.
It has all these different contraptions that pull you through the water, drop you into a tank, and spin you upside down.
So you get put in this helo dunker. You have to unstrap and find your way out. It was heinous.
There's absolutely nothing that is fun about it. They had to go through all that just like we have to. In an F-18, we're pulling up to 7 Gs, and it takes a while to get accustomed to that.
Let's get some speed up.
So Tom developed a flight training program for all of the actors.
The intention is that the audience can feel what it is like to be in the F-18.
Here comes some Gs.
During flight training, they would be embarrassed about puking. I was like, do not be embarrassed about that.
I feel every bit of food I've had in my stomach.
Oh, okay. There's 5 Gs.
My mustache fell off.
I can't wait for the day where I don't get sick.
7 Gs.
All the training 100% prepared us. Today, I feel like a pilot.
They did in the course of 4 to 6 months what the average naval aviator does over the course of almost 2 years. They have worked hard.
That was epic.
I thought one would tap out. I thought for sure at least one would tap out. Nobody tapped out. I lost a bet.
That's what I'm talking about.
Looking ahead now, studios have been avoiding opening anything in summer tentpole's second weekends. But Disney and Pixar are launching a high-profile PG animated action-adventure June 17th, The Dinos Weekend 2. It's a smart move that will give Lightyear prime mid-June playing time, and Lightyear should coexist well with the dinos since it's targeted to family audiences while Dominion will have broader playability. Here's a quick look at this origin story of Space Ranger Buzz Lightyear from the Toy Story franchise.
I've been a fan of Buzz since the first time that I saw Toy Story.
To infinity and beyond!
It's one of my favorite movies.
The movie Toy Story was such an impactful film.
Thank you all, thank you.
It's so iconic and the characters had such variety. They just offer something that's so relatable.
For over 20 years, I've been percolating on this idea of what is the world Buzz Lightyear comes from.
This film is the origin story of Buzz Lightyear. Finally. It's the story that made Andy and his friends want to go buy a Buzz Lightyear toy.
Having the opportunity to take your childhood hero and make a fictional movie about them. That was just a really fun challenge.
Buzz Lightyear mission log.
There seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Who are you talking to?
No one.
You were narrating again.
I was not. That's great.
Buzz is the kind of person that you want to lead you on an adventure.
He's obsessed with being the hero.
Are we going to crash?
Sometimes to a fault.
This is my mistake. I need to make it right.
Buzz meets a team of specialists.
Don't worry, we got you.
Did I get it?
Pretty close.
Hello, Buzz. This is exciting. A new adventure.
Sox is the cutest member of the team.
Buzz Lightyear!
Just hang on!
Run!
Lightyear raises the bar. It's an intergalactic experience. Go!
All right, Space Rangers. Ready?
Ready.
No, wait, not ready.
I'm a massive Pixar fan. I was a kid in a candy store.
Watch out!
It's unlike any Pixar movie to date.
I will never forget the first time I got to say, to infinity
And beyond.
Well, this is pretty cool.
OMG.
Lightyear's first choice tracking scores are encouraging with all demos. They're good, but not in the overwhelming range where the dinos were pre-opening or where Marvel movies typically start out. Under 25 women are best right now at 3 points over norm, and under 25 men are the least excited demo, just 1 point over norm. Men and women over 25 are both 2 points over norm. What could propel Buzz to a higher box office orbit is the strong awareness family audiences have had of his character for nearly 30 years. Buzz's catchphrase, to infinity and beyond, became part of pop culture in 1995's original Toy Story episode, voiced by Tim Allen, opposite the cowboy doll Woody, voiced by Tom Hanks. In Lightyear, Buzz, voiced by Captain America's Chris Evans, crashes with his spaceship crew and robot pal Sox on a hostile planet far from Earth. While trying to get home, they also face danger from the evil Emperor Zurg, voiced by James Brolin. The change in voicing from Tim Allen in Toy Story to Chris Evans in Lightyear reportedly reflects creative thinking that Allen is the voice of the toy Buzz that Andy made his favorite in the first Toy Story, while Evans is the voice of the real-life astronaut Buzz Lightyear, who was the basis for Andy's toy. Lightyear won't run into any new animated competition until July 1st, when Universal and Illumination Entertainment's PG comedy adventure Minions: The Rise of Gru hits cinemas for July 4th weekend. It's still very early for Gru, but its first-choice tracking is encouraging, with under 25 women the best demo right now at 5 points over norm. Women over 25 are next best with 3 points over norm. Men are less excited, but there's still 3 weeks for that to improve as the marketing campaign heats up. It definitely helps that families know and like the Minions brand. The series' first episode opened July 10th, 2015 to nearly $116 million and grossed $1.2 billion worldwide. On the other hand, Disney and Marvel's action-adventure comedy Thor, Love and Thunder, starring Chris Hemsworth, doesn't open until July 8th, but it's already posting double-digit first-choice scores in the Best Marvel tracking tradition. Here's a quick scene that will tell you why.
So this is my vow. All gods will die.
I just want to say that was very, very impressive what you did back there.
He's just my first bad guy.
You never forget your first.
You are not like the other gods of kill.
Because I have something worth fighting for.
Thor's first-choice tracking scores 4 weeks out point to Marvel's customary broad playability. All 4 demos are strong, but as is usually the case with Marvel, men are liking it most. Under 25 men are tops at 7 times norm. Men over 25 are next best with more than 5 times norm. Under 25 women are nearly 4 times norm, and women over 25 are 3.5 times norm. Those female demo scores could grow as word spreads via marketing that this episode has a prime female role in Thor's ex-girlfriend Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman, who's now mysteriously wielding Thor's magical hammer. Thor's been a Marvel box office heavyweight since 2011. This is the franchise's 4th episode. The last one, Thor Ragnarok, opened November 3rd, 2017 to nearly $123 million. It did just over $315 million domestic, plus $539 million international for a global gross of $854 million. Thor will clearly be part of this summer's tentpole parade that just delivered Jurassic World Dominion. Last week brought word that moviegoers will also be getting 2 classic summer blockbusters to end the season. Universal and Amblin Entertainment will make the most of available IMAX screens in mid-August and over Labor Day weekend to reissue Steven Spielberg's 1982 sci-fi adventure E.T. the Extraterrestrial and his 1975 Jaws, which began the summer blockbuster genre. This will be the first time moviegoers can see either film in IMAX. Watch for E.T. to land August 12th, and for Jaws to surface September 2nd, also in Real D 3D theaters, for Labor Day weekend. For E.T., which opened June 11th, 1982, it will be a 40th anniversary celebration. By now, not everyone remembers Spielberg originally developed E.T. at Columbia, where he'd had huge success with 1977 sci-fi drama Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Columbia, however, scrapped E.T. reportedly because research said it would only appeal to kids. Columbia was also developing another script then about an alien visiting Earth. Research gave that project broader playability, so Columbia went with Starman from Halloween director John Carpenter. Spielberg, of course, moved E.T. to Universal, and the rest, as they say in Hollywood, is history. E.T. cost just $10.5 million and grossed almost $793 million worldwide. Starman, which Columbia made for $22 million, opened December 14th, 1984. It did $28.7 million globally. Time now to focus our Oscar Outlook spotlight on the awards race. Last week's big news that there's finally a new CEO at the Academy means there's now at least a possibility that something can be done to make people watch the Oscars again. It's encouraging that Bill Kramer, the new CEO, moves up from heading the Academy Museum, which sold 550,000 admissions its first 9 months in business. If he could get people to buy museum tickets, maybe Kramer can get them to watch the Oscars for free. To boost the telecast's ratings to where ABC's advertisers will be comfortable paying super premium prices will require changes the Academy's prior leadership wouldn't or couldn't manage. The problem is all those new far-flung Academy members' idea of Best Pictures is a total disconnect from what the public thinks. Last week's MTV Awards hammered home which films actually resonated with moviegoers. Unlike the Oscars, whose voters' rarefied taste is for meaty indie dramas with a side of shoestring budgets, MTV's Golden Popcorn Bucket noms went to Dune, Scream, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Spider-Man No Way Home, The Adam Project, and The Batman. Spidey won. Only one MTV contender made Oscar's Best Picture race, Dune, which lost to Coda, which had virtually no theatrical run. If Kramer can figure out how to get Academy members to include a few worthy popcorn pictures in their 10 Best Picture noms, Oscars' plunging ratings will benefit. Getting Chris Rock to host next year might be a good starting point, too. We'll offer some other ideas about how to fix things in upcoming Oscar Outlook updates. That's a wrap for today, but next week on Box Office Autopsy, we'll look at how Lightyear opens and how well Dominion's dinos are surviving in the Hollywood jungle. And we'll also check out what's happening on the early awards season front. So please join us again then, and for now, thanks very much for listening. Time now for our film flashback look at what was happening in Hollywood right around now, way back then. Let's set today's time travel dial for June 11th, 1993. Dinosaurs, after 65 million years of extinction, came back to life in Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park. They're still alive 29 years later in Jurassic World Dominion, helping now to keep exhibition from going extinct. Michael Crichton's novel, Jurassic Park, was published in 1990, but pre-production work on the movie began at Universal in 1989. The studio assumed, correctly as it turned out, that the book would be a bestseller from which to launch a hit movie. Crichton started working in 1983 on what evolved into Jurassic, but was then about the cloning of a pterodactyl from an egg. During 2 years of writing, Crichton realized the problem was he'd started by telling the story through the eyes of a child at the theme park when the dinos escaped. After changing that point of view, the story worked. At least 4 studios were eager to make the movie. Warner Brothers with Tim Burton directing, Columbia with Richard Donner, 20th Century Fox with Joe Dante, and Universal with Spielberg. Crichton decided to go with Spielberg and Universal, which reportedly paid $2 million pre-publication for the rights. Spielberg and Crichton's paths actually had crossed many years earlier in quite different circumstances. It was very early in Spielberg's career at Universal, and he was asked to give a quick look at the studio to a writer from whom they'd just purchased some book rights. Crichton and Spielberg later became friends, and Spielberg liked how Crichton was able to write about science in ways that could translate well to the movie screen. With Jurassic, Spielberg was concerned initially that the computer graphics to create the dinos would be the cartoon kind used for video games. He envisioned using computer-generated dinosaurs, but after seeing a dino demo animation from Industrial Light and Magic of a T-Rex chasing a herd of smaller dinos, he decided this was the way to go. When it was time for post-production on Jurassic, Spielberg had to work by video link from Poland, where he was then shooting Schindler's List. He has said that was one of his most difficult situations ever as a filmmaker because it was so emotionally demanding to transition from filming his Holocaust drama to finishing his digital dinos. Most of the scenes that showed full-size dinos were computer-generated, but partial shots of them were filmed using animatronics. The huge full-size T-Rex animatron weighed in at about 15,000 pounds. But the real thing tipped the scales at 5.5 to 8 tons. Jurassic also turned out to be much larger than life, opening June 11, 1993 to a then sizable $47 million and climbing to $1.1 billion worldwide. And that's it for today's podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with another box office autopsy next week. In Hollywood for Screendollars, I'm Martin Grove.